Welcome to TheSystem.ca, the art and science of coaching, providing innovative information on new speed, power, recovery, wellness, strength, and conditioning for both athletes and active individuals.
Have fun.
All right. Okay. Today we have a special guest. Today we have Cindy Ballas from Sacro Wedgie, and I've been using the product for many years. And I thought I'd get Cindy to come on the podcast and talk about the value of using the Sacro Wedgie for, athletics and back pain, etc. I mean, Cindy's the one that's going to be telling us how to use it. So basically, Cindy, quick question. What is it? I know what it is, but, can you tell the viewers what it is? What's the Sacro Wedgie?
Sure. Many, many years ago, my father is the one that actually developed this product, and it was necessity is the mother of invention. It just always is. And back in the late 50s, he started holding the sacrum with his hand. A friend was an osteopath. My dad's a retired football coach and trainer, and so the whole thing started in sports. And he started having his own issues with some sciatica, and a friend that was an osteopath said, Coach, there's an old-timey osteopath technique that I think might help you. So we got him on the training table, got his hand under the sacrum, which is the keystone of our anatomy. Everything centers. This is the center of the body, center of gravity. So he just got him on the training table and held the sacrum. And you have to hold it for quite a while. It's really a feeling in your hand. Mm-hmm. So he held it until he could feel the release. And my dad personally got so much relief from it. He started working with this with all of his athletes. It started back in the late 50s. I mean, I'm 10 years old when this whole system started. So for years, he would just get him on the training table, hold the sacrum, isolate and cradle and hold only the sacrum, and wait till gravity kicks in. And then you can just feel the release. You can feel everything. He described it as a war zone in the beginning. You can feel the quivering. You can feel the muscles resisting. And then for some reason around that 20-minute mark, all of that would just subside. So for years, he would get his athletes on the training table, hold the sacrum again, and just wait for that. And then he started to say, well, there needs to be another way to do this. It seems to help so much. So he started whittling different shapes and probably a football field of different foam shapes to try to get this to mimic what his hand was doing. And after about 10 years, hundreds of anatomy charts, x-rays, he saw that there was quite a difference in anatomy. So we've got the female sacrum. The male sacrum is a little bit more narrow and a little bit longer, but you have to isolate. You have to get between the iliacs, just like the hand was doing. So then he had a mold made, and actually the same company that made the mold is still where we're doing the Sacro Wedgie. So everything is made in the U.S. It's a 2-cavity mold, so we make small batches. And so the only variable, and there are tons of variables, but this is a very important one. Some women that have a longer, more narrow frame are going to be more comfortable on the male version. We had to get the average anatomy. So the male sacrum a little bit more narrow and longer, and some women are just built taller and longer, so we have to switch them to the male version. So over the years, we've developed a number of techniques. We started seeing a pattern of the different movements that we were doing. Start with a little bit of gentle rocking, and then the knees are bent, and you really do some side-to-side rocking. We're trying to encourage these muscles to let go and release. And it's a process. And I tell people this is not a quick fix, and it's not always fun. But your body is changing. You have to compare it to what people go through, say, whenever they put braces on their teeth. It's a process. These changes happen in small increments. But for an athlete especially, the more you use this and the more you keep your body balanced, the fewer issues you're going to have. And if you do have one, you're going to recover much quicker because your body is in a constant state of balance. And that's also why it's very important that you have a neck roll. This goes under the neck to support the curve of the neck. So this way you have a dual natural traction. You've got the top and the bottom of the spine being held, and it's a gravity modality basically. But there's a lot of routines you can do. There's a book that comes with each one that takes you step by step, or you can just lay there and take a nap.
Yeah, I've done that many times where just lie on it and basically just pass out. It's just so comfortable. But you mentioned the sacrum, and on our discovery call, you said there's something like 34 different attachments just to the sacrum alone in the pelvis, right? And that's pretty huge. Considering some of these muscles are definitely used in athletics. So if you balance the sacrum, by de facto, I think you can balance out all these other muscles indirectly.
Well, it kind of has no choice.
Yeah, right.
The only one that doesn't actually attach is the psoas. It's about the 12th thoracic, lays deep in the iliac, and then attaches deep on the inside of the thigh. Some people will say they feel like they have almost like a growing pull, a real tightness in that area, and that's that psoas trying to let go for the most part. We always do a pelvic tilt. There's everybody kind of finds their own favorite routines. Some people are in so much pain, all they can do is lay there and just relax, and it's happening like that too. So like I said, it's a very gradual process. Some people may have to start with only the sacroiliac, nothing under it, and then once everything starts kind of releasing, then you can build and add that elevation pad. And then personally, I put it on too. I mean, I've used it just about all my life, so I like the way it feels. I just crank it up and just hang there and let everything just kind of float around it. One man had to tell himself he was melting like a stick of butter. That's the only way he could, in his mind, to get his body to totally let go. And that's the hardest thing to do, is nothing.
Yeah, I guess so. And when you're using it, you're obviously lying down on the table or on the ground. Are your knees bent straight? I mean, does it make a difference?
That's some of the variables. If someone tells me they've been diagnosed with stenosis, that's a tricky one, because there's many degrees of that particular symptom. Every imbalance has a name for it. There's going to be a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
But stenosis, all I ask, well, whenever you walk, are you standing up real straight? Or are you one of these that, like, if you go to the grocery store, the first thing you grab is a basket and you're leaning into it? That's pretty severe if you're trying to lean. And in that instance, I would tell them in the beginning, put a pillow under your knee to kind of take the pressure out of the lower back. Maybe one at a time. Eventually you want to be just totally flat out, but it's got to happen in those small increments again. So that's back to the variables. And some people cannot get on the floor. So I'll tell them when they get their shipment of the sacroiliac, just take the box that it comes in, flatten it, put that on the bed, let that be your firm surface.
Good idea.
We're going to work through those initial issues until we finally get you to whatever it takes to be able to relax. That's the key to it, is to be able to completely, totally let go. If it's one knee bent and you can feel a release enough to relax, well, then so be it. That's for you. An athlete may be totally different. They're able to relax. I work with young athletes, runners, and then you get up into elderly, that it really gets into just a posture change. So what comes first, bad posture or back pain? If you start leaning into it, even someone that can be depressed and feeling down, you find those shoulders start to stoop forward. You're not in a good place. You carry your body that way. That can lead to issues. Or if you're having back problems, then of course you're going to favor one side. One side's going to do more work. This is where these imbalances really kick in. And this is why it's so important with the sacroiliac and that neck support to you're addressing the whole posture. And a lot of people, that'll be some of their first comments. I felt like I was standing taller, or felt taller. I said, well, you're just standing up straight. One girl had been out of balance for so long, and she started standing up straight. She thought she was going to fall over backwards.
Yeah.
Because she's been compensating so many years.
Yep.
The pain, you give into it. So once she started really standing up straight and got a good curve back in her neck, and that's another problem too, is what they call military neck, that straight neck. Whenever you're leaning forward, Eric Dalton always says it's like you're carrying a 40-pound bowling ball around and you're leaning forward. So this is why you've got to get your posture up real straight and you're standing straight. So, we give in to the pain. We guard the pain, and that creates more imbalances while you're doing that. I mean, people with knee problems, I've had a lot of people call and they canceled knee replacement surgery. When your hips are out of balance, the longest muscle in the body, the sartorius, starts at the hip and ends on the inside below the knee. Then you got the second longest, the gracilis, down the back, hip to back of the knee, and then you got the IT band, hip to below the knee. So the poor knee, you've got attachments both sides below the joint and in the back, but the origin is in the hip. Get the hips to balance out, it's going to take the pressure out of the knee. Runners, if your hips are out of balance, you're going to overstride, you're going to overextend. So you've got to get the hips back in balance and get a good roll going in the hips. So golfers, any sports, everything originates with balance in the hips to where you perform to the best of your ability.
Right. Would you say, I mean, going back here, you said the sacrum is the keystone, right? So I guess the thigh bones are other columns, basically. So you have almost like a perfect archway from one perspective. And that's kind of unique because, I mean, nobody really looks at the the sacrum as a keystone kind of thing, but it's from an architectural perspective, it's quite unique, right?
Well, we do compare it to that. If you're building an arch, the last stone to go into place is the keystone. It's the center. So if the keystone is tilted one way or the other, this arch is going to collapse.
But I want to bring that a little bit more forward and with less light, so I could see and tilt it more forward. Let's just see what happens. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, there you go.
So there's your construction. Of course, my dad's background too. He was a pipe fitter and all of that too. He did a lot of construction, so it was easier for him to compare to everyday situations. But that's the anatomy. That is literally the keystone of our anatomy is the sacrum. That's the center of everything.
And so you've had how long you been selling this now? How many years?
Oh gosh, 35 years, something like that.
35 years. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
and have you mentioned in the discovery call that you've actually had people even with PTSD have benefit from this. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Anyone that's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, there's usually a muscle imbalance, but there's also the internal balance, and this is where craniosacral work comes in. I work with a gentleman out of Ohio. I'm going to be doing a class there in a couple of weeks too, up in Cincinnati. He does all the craniosacral work, and the way we teach is he does the cranial work in the morning, I do the sacral in the afternoon, then we tie it all together. But in craniosacral work, you're holding the skull and you can feel the rhythm. You have an internal rhythm.
That's right.
And that internal spinal rhythm is different than breathing or heart or anything. Mm-hmm. Dr. Upledger, I taught a class there one time, and I read the book on how he started this whole thing. Dr. Upledger was an osteopath as well, and he had to assist someone. I found this so interesting. Assist someone in surgery, and it was a very delicate surgery, and it had to do with a tumor or something, and the doctor asked Upledger to hold this, what they were trying to remove still, and it kept having movement, and he could actually see the rhythm and the flow in the spinal column. And this goes back, of course, many, many years. This is whenever he started really realizing there's an internal rhythm that's totally different. So, and if you hold and create a still point, you give that rhythm a chance to reboot. So PTSD everything internally is out of rhythm, as well as the muscles are out of balance. So this is a very gentle, very subtle way to allow the body to kind of rebalance. I had one therapist at a show that was, he had a service dog. He was also a massage therapist. His mother was a massage therapist. We were at a big convention, and he explained that, you know, he had PTSD, so it was really hard for him to relax. So I got him on the table, and we were just talking, and I took him through some of the routines. Of course, the way we access the psoas is just a very gentle pulse at the insertion, right at the top of the thighs. Everything we do is very gentle, very light touch. And we were just talking, and he fell asleep. So I just told everybody in line, y'all just gonna have to come back. I am not waking this man up. And let him just go for about 20 minutes. I mean, it was a deep sleep, a jaw dropped, REM breathing. I mean, he went sound asleep. And I very gently kind of woke him up after a little while and did some pelvic tilts. And we talked a few more minutes. And he came back later to buy everything. And I said, well, in your PTSD experience, what's the biggest problem? He said, sleep. I can't sleep. I said, well, you just took a really good nap. He said, I know I did. He said that was pretty amazing how his body internally just calmed down, and it was very, very peaceful. And so I talked to him a couple of years later, and he's still using everything at night, especially to get some rest. I thought that was pretty powerful, but yet so simple.
Yeah, no, like I said, I've been purchasing the product from you guys for a number of years, and I've seen what it does. And everybody works with me gets that. No questions asked. So
but everybody's so different.
Yeah, but everybody uses that. I mean, they all benefit from it. Not some people more than others, but by and large, there's definitely a noticeable difference when they use it. It helps maintain that area. It's kind of like brushing your teeth. You do that every day. Just kind of you do this at nighttime, go to bed, put the sacral wedgie on, and then when you start falling asleep, maybe you just take that out and dump it to the side of the bed, and you go to sleep. But I found that it definitely helps with people. Now, I want to talk to you about something here, which is really interesting with respect to sport, definitely for hamstring problems. And this is, across the board, any sport that involves a lot of running, especially football, wide receivers, rugby, and you get baseball players sometimes on the occasion. But basically, a lot of these football players, wide receivers, tend to get a lot of hamstring pulls, and a lot of that, again, I would attest to having some sort of sacral imbalance. But anyways, so that with that said, can you give me some idea about that?
Well, everybody talks about the hamstring because it follows it. Once again, you're looking at the gracilis. It's kind of the same path.
Yes.
And it attaches into the back of the pelvic and goes down the back of the leg to the knee. So if they're overstriding because of the tightness in the muscles, you're going to get the feeling of a tight hamstring. That's just where it is and what it's called. So the more you get the hips to relax and rebalance, you're not going to overstride. So many sports are one-sided. Your tennis, you're right-handed golfers. You don't play right-handed one day and left-handed the next day. You've got muscles that are forced to do more work. So if the hips get really tight, it's going to feel like you have a tight hamstring. But it just goes back to a muscle imbalance more than anything. And one of the routines that we do, what I'll do is like you bend the knee and then you just slowly straighten the leg and you just hold it there. You don't stretch anything. You just find that point to where the leg stops and you kind of get a little resistance and you just kind of hang out for a second. A lot of the routines that we do, you'll find a spot. And of course, I'm talking to who I'm working on quite a bit too, and how does that feel? But a lot of it you can feel in your hand, that.
Yeah, sure.
That point of resistance. Just hang out there a little while. I mean, the knee can be bent and just dropped out. I like to do that one personally because you'll feel a nice, gentle, really deep stretch. So you just hang out there a little while. You're teaching your body to return back to a good, proper balance. And we do go into some isometrics. If the body has gotten very, very strong on one side, you want to really relax the tighter muscles, but you've got to strengthen the weaker side. This is what scoliosis is. It could be the erectus spinae, very, very strong on one side, very weak on the other side. It'll be like in the spinal column, you want to have like a filet mignon, a nice rounded muscle on both sides. And you can actually feel, I'll do this like a little test in a class and have the therapist come and feel one side nice and rounded, and the other side completely flat. Well, then it becomes very obvious that's the side you need to strengthen. So, and with the psoas as well, we do a resistance where you're just kind of pulling the knee back into the body, and I'll just pull it away, and you can feel, and they can feel too, which is the side with the most resistance. So that tells you want to strengthen the psoas on one particular side. I mean, we're creatures of balance. If you're out of balance, you're going to have a symptom. It's going to be a name for it. So we do have very muscle-specific isometrics. And you've got to be careful not to over-strengthen the weaker one. And it does take several weeks. It's not something that's going to happen real fast. We don't want it to happen real fast. I mean, that's like if you lose weight real fast, you're going to gain it back real fast. It's better if it happens very slowly, then it's more permanent. So we have very muscle-specific isometrics to strengthen these muscles to really get you back back to center again. You want to be, don't any of us look like the pictures?
Yeah, right.
Nice, even on both sides, you know. So this is what our goal is to achieve balance.
Speaking of balance, I mean, you talked about in the discovery call, you know, some people obviously carrying carry the wallet in the back pocket. Go ahead, tell me about that.
Well, my dad's theory was that they should have never put back pockets on pants, because once you start carrying a wallet, and I know we laughed, we call it I've seen people with what I call a Costanza wallet. The thing is so huge, they got their life in the wallet, and they'll be so surprised that somehow I knew what side they have sciatica on. I'm going like, okay, what side do you carry your wallet on? They go like, oh, the right side. And where's the sciatic pain? The right side. So you're sitting there with pressure right in the center of the hip, and it's putting pressure right on the nerve. So, you know, take the wallet out, and that doesn't mean to balance with another wallet on the other side either. Get rid of the wallet. And well, what if I carry another wallet? No, stop. So just take the wallet out, and probably by the time you're feeling that symptom, it's going to take a little while. It's the piriformis muscle gets really involved with that sciatic nerve. That's right about where the wallet is. It's right in the hip. So
right.
I lost my nerve. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay, there you are. The sciatic nerve is very much involved with the piriformis muscle. And of course, this is very common with runners too. You tend to still be more one-sided or a little bit stronger. You have a lead, and it's very often that piriformis syndrome. That's where the piriformis has not totally gotten involved with the nerve yet, but you're going to have that real heavy leg feeling. It's like you really can't walk even. One leg is real heavy. So this also helps with that by relaxing on this and freeing all the surrounding muscles. It just allows the body, it's a gravity modality, and the body's balancing itself, but you're being held top and the bottom so that you're in a neutral position. It's holding the sacrum neutral. Right.
You mentioned something about bucket seats, and go ahead and tell me about that, because we talked about that in the discovery call.
So our theory is that the bucket seat created this entire industry. This is why you have a job and every therapist has a job as the bucket seat. Back in the day, back in 65, 70 years ago, seats were either like in a car, you see an old truck, it's a bench seat, flat across, back straight up, nothing comfortable about it at all. but your posture is good. You're sitting up straight. You know, go to church, sit in an old church pew. That's not a recliner. That's why they want you sitting straight up, because you're going to be paying attention. So, but once they created the bucket seat, and the reason for it was by bringing you up on the sides a little bit, it would hold the person in place. There's not as much movement side to side, so they felt like you were safer when you were being held in the seat. But in order to go up on the side, you had to go down in the middle. And our anatomy is completely the opposite. I don't know if you can see, when you're sitting, there's a space right under the coccyx. So, and you sit on the sit bones. You want to be sitting on the ischial tuberosity, and there is a space in the center. So once you sit for a long time, gravity is going to fill in a hole, and everything just starts dropping. And then with your hips jammed up on the side, this is when people will say, well, I just really had trouble getting out of the car. I feel like every half hour, if not more, I want to stop and stretch and get out. But they're fine if they're sitting on the sacral wedge and you just put it flat in the seat. You're filling in the gap. You're holding the center of the body so that the sit bones are naturally on either side, which is where you're supposed to be. Otherwise, you're going to be dropping in the center. Piriformis is sitting right on that sciatic nerve. So it's just, I travel with it. It's at the computer. It just creates a proper seat. We're going back to that center support. Like old farm tractor seats always had a rise in the center. I've seen old wooden secretarial furniture be a wooden chair with that little hump in the middle. That was proper for our anatomy. And now we're nice and comfortable and out of balance. So, so you make your corrections lying on this. We really want gravity to do the work, so you're holding the sacrum and everything can release. So the sitting part is prevention. You know, somebody will get this. I had a therapist one time told her client to get it and just sit on it, and it was going to correct sciatica. And I'm going, where and anywhere did you see that?
Right.
I tell people I want to lay on this a few times first and get the body to start balancing out and start making some corrections. Then the sitting part is prevention. It's not making the corrections. Gravity is what does that, but sitting on this prevents it. It's part of your healing process to keep things from going out again.
Right, right. And where can they get this? Where can they purchase this?
Well, I know you always keep some in stock. You're up in Canada. Yep. I'm in Alabama, in Mobile is where the home office is. Right. You can go to the website, sacrowedgy.com, SACROWEDGY, sacrowedgy.com, or call me, 1-800-737-9295 is the number. If you have any questions about it. I mean, we talk to people, I'll tell them, I don't care if you call me every day. I will work with you, and we will get you through these first initial stages until your body changes, because everybody's different. There's not any, and you know that, there's not any people you touch that's the same.
So who should not use it? I mean, obviously there's a couple of people that you would say, okay, well, maybe you ought to be a little bit cautious with these people. What would you say these people are? Well,
I don't know. I guess to me, everyone can benefit, but it's just how you start with it. Right. Now, if someone has a cyst on the coccyx, something like that, it might be a little bit too much pressure. Someone that's very elderly, not a lot of meat on their bones, they'd have to start with it by itself, and you might even want to put the pad on top. You know, I just work with people until we find what position allows them to relax first. If someone has had a lot of surgery, a lot of fusions, and I've had a number of people, those get great results, but not in the beginning. They had to start slow, maybe 5 minutes at a time, no elevation pads, start by itself, and then kind of slowly let those muscles change. Our body's not designed for a quick change. We just don't work that way. And if you do get it to go back quick, it's going to go right back to that bad balance again. It's just the same habits are there. So this is a retraining process. So Surgery is always a tricky one when people have fusion. And what happens after a fusion, though, is about 8 to 10 years, because you no longer have that natural curve in the body, all the surrounding muscles. We're dealing with the surrounding muscles. This is where your symptoms and your pain comes, is from a muscle sitting on a nerve or something like that. So this is what we want to concentrate on, is getting that muscle balance back again, and symptoms resolve themselves as your body balances.
Right. Obviously, you've had experience using this with a lot of football players, because obviously your dad that's where it got its roots from. You guys still work with football players?
Notre Dame used to order a bunch every year, so whatever therapist was ordering is not there now. They do tend to move a little bit. So anybody in football should be on this on a regular basis. I have a therapist, and she's in the Dallas area. She works with a lot of football players there, and I've had to send her a number of lifts. We have we have a 1-inch lift too, but they might really want to jack this up real high, depending on how big the player is. And I've even had to cut what we call a filler pad in this hollow end. I'll cut some of this foam and fit in there and really make that solid. The average person couldn't handle it, but she had a football player. I think he was Samoan, so he was, a good 300-pounder. And that's interesting too, because I can work on someone that big because it's that easy to do. So some therapists, like in the class, you learn how to not work so hard. And you don't have to do all that deep tissue work. It's very gentle. I mean, I'm holding the top of the knees and just rocking the body a little bit. Do some very gentle psoas work. We never go in through the abdomen. We just access right at the top of the thigh. It's a very gentle pulse. I'm working with a lot of people. They're not going to relax whenever you start to try to go and dig through the abdomen. It's, you're not rotor-rooter. Say this is a no-fly zone. We just let gravity just do that internal stretch, and it's very, very gentle. So, I mean, I can work on people. I've done shows where I'll work on people one after the next from 9 to 9, and 10, 12-hour days. I just work on the next person. It's very gentle. Spend 10, 15 minutes just as kind of a quick demo so they can see how it works. I've gotten incredible results just in that very short time. But the key is getting them to relax. This is where the changes start.
Right. Are you traveling anywhere? You mentioned Ohio. Are you going anywhere other south, like Carolinas, or you do?
Well, Matt and I are presenters at the Tennessee chapter conference coming up, and right outside of Nashville. That's in April. So any therapists that need, these are for continuing education units. And so that's the Tennessee chapter. And I know I have had people travel just to take the class. They didn't even necessarily need credits, but they just wanted to learn more about it. And then I'm going to be doing one here at my office later in April. I mean, I can put a class together anytime. You get 8 or 10 people, and I'm happy to go wherever you are, or everybody can come here. We got plenty of space. Right.
Well, you know what? This has been great. I think we covered a lot of ground in terms of what the product does. And obviously they can just to kind of reiterate again, they can get a hold of you at sacrowedgy.com, SACROWEDGY.com. And then what the 1-800 number is 1-800-737-9295. Right. And they can talk to you directly. Cindy asked for you, and I'm sure that you can help them out. But I think definitely that's why I wanted to get you on here, because I felt the product is a half-decent product. Definitely needs to be in every therapist's toolbox, and also trainer's toolbox. And every athlete should have one. Yeah, self-care. Exactly. And definitely appreciate your time, Cindy, for coming on the System podcast. And hopefully we'll get you back on again, maybe talking about some other stuff, maybe doing a Zoom call with some sort of class. Do you do any Zoom calls? Like, if you do an online class, have you ever tried doing that? Still kind of working on that?
I know. I am virtually uninspired.
Same here.
I am so hands-on. I really want to see, I guess if we have to, but I just would rather watch that therapist.
I hear you.
Yeah. I can see if somebody's getting ready to do some really deep work, it's not necessary. I can stop you right then. The virtual, it's I want to jump through the screen. It's like
right.
Do that. If I have to, I guess I could. One of those students in Ohio that's coming up in Cincinnati this month, she can't come to the class, so we are going to have one virtual person. So we'll kind of see how that works. So we're going to do. Matt's got scheduled one day, a 6-hour class. We're only going to do like 6 people each day. I mean, we really want small classes. This business of having 200 people is just insane to me. So it's going to be a small class, and most of mine are. So, like I said, if anybody wants to put one together, I'm NCBTMB approved for credits to teach, or a lot of the physical therapists, if you want to just take the class and learn about it. We just got approved for the government to work with vets. So we finally got the magic number. So we're going to start doing, trying to approach some of the veterans hospitals and physical therapy. At least this is something you can do at home by yourself in between visits. And it's hard to get an appointment, but you get that appointment, they show you how to use this, then you've got self-care at home. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and that's the way I use it with my clients. Basically, they doing this stuff on their own. By the time they come to see me, a lot of my work's already done. So I just get access. I have to just do stuff that they can't get access to. That's fine. Right. But again, appreciate your time, and definitely.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on, and we worked out some of the logistics of getting you on Skype. No problem. But thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Take care, Cindy.
Thank you. All right.
Take care. Bye.
TheSystem.ca podcast disclaimer. We're not here to tell you that we know everything. We're just here to present possibilities. The information presented is by no way intended as medical advice or as a substitute for medical counseling. The information should be used in conjunction with the guidance and care of your physician. Consult your physician before beginning this program, as you would with any other exercise and nutrition program. If you choose not to obtain consent of your physician and or work with your physician throughout the duration of your time using the recommendations given, you are agreeing to accept full responsibility for your actions. By continuing, you recognize that despite all precautions on the part of the system, the art and science of coaching, there are risks of injuries or illness which can occur because of your use of the aforementioned information, and you expressly assume risks and waive, relinquish, and release any claim which you have against the system, the art and science of coaching, or any of its affiliates as a result of any future physical or illness incurred in connection with or as a result of the use or misuse of this information given. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means, including photocopying, recording, or any other electronic or mechanical methods, without the prior written permission of the system, the art and science of coaching, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical reviews and certain other non-commercial uses permitted by copyright law. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the content, please hit the subscribe button. Check out TheSystem.ca for more information on services and more content like this, and also products. Take care.